I have miles and miles ahead of me, tales to listen to, time to spend. Up ahead, the road is bending. Wonder what's around the bend.
Hello, I'm Charles Kuralt. We're off again to meet a few people on the back roads of America. These are people you know, not from the front pages. They've never been on the front pages. They're people you know from next door and down the block. Their stories are some of my favorites from 25 years on the road. We have places to go and people to see around the bend, as we've said already in song. Here's a man some might say had gone around the bend altogether. We found him living in a 12-by-12 hut on the edge of a glacier in the shadow of Mount McKinley, as alone as any man alive. Alone, but not lonely.
Solitude is getting to be more and more as time goes on. It's one of the priceless luxuries in life, you know. It's hard to find. It's hard to buy.
Hard to leave, too, as you'll see. And we'll visit another singular example of hardiness, the juniper folks in these parts all call the tree. Not that there are many folks in these parts, and no other tree at all but this one. If so much loneliness makes you pine for company, we'll provide company.
And first to the boards.
Here's a crowd of modern-day Tom Sawyers and Huck Finns in the town Mark Twain made part of childhood for us all forever. Huck Finn wanted nothing more than to pick up a slingshot and let fly. Well, meet some up-to-date teenagers in a wood shop in Hopkins, Minnesota, who also mean to let something fly, the honest-to-goodness airplane they are building themselves. Our first stop, however, is Pennsylvania Dutch country, which has cast a spell on many a traveler, and no wonder there are signs of spells at work everywhere around here.
Most farmers manage to keep witches out of their barns without the use of hex signs. But the Pennsylvania Dutch never believed in taking chances. So if you drive out through Leonardsville or Fleetwood or Hamburg or Virginsville, you can see old hex signs yet, fading now, some of them, but still up there near the roof lines of the old barns, doing their job. It is said that a good hex sign painter can protect your barn from lightning and your cattle from disease and provide you with a perfect marriage, abundance, good luck, industrious children, food for your family, and rain for your crops. So naturally, we went looking for such a man and found him. John Claypool. What's the origin of hex signs?
The hex signs actually started back, they're biblical from Bible times. They have a religious significance. There was actually, according to the history, about seven, from what I know of, 7 signs. They came from the 7th book of Moses. And they were mostly stars, rosettes, wheels. The rosette is for good luck and good health. Ward off disease, pestilence, and bring good luck. This is your black chain in the yellow field, the eternal chain of life to keep you together. The rosettes represent your rosettes and your big rosette window of your modern churches. The Cocalico star, you'll see that down through the Lebanon Valley, Schuylkill County, Berks County. You might see it in different colors, but the main color is a purple dot in the center. That's a very religious significance. The purple dot represents the robe Christ was crucified in. The white field in the background is purity, and the black circle around the sign always represents unity in Christ.
There are a lot of Amish and Mennonites around here, but they aren't the ones who make hex signs, are they?
No, the Amish, they're very wonderful people. They are very plain people. They wear plain clothes and stuff, but hex signs, definitely not. They do not believe in any of that stuff. That's taboo for them. They won't have a hex sign on their barn. But what they call the gay Dutch, or they're more or less Lutheran, Catholic, Protestant Dutch, they are the type who have the hex signs. They're all Pennsylvania Dutch, technically. This thistle-pink bird here now, the one I'm painting right now, is the good luck sign. This is very prevalent. A lot of people like this sign. They call it the good luck sign, the good luck bird.
The bird goes way back, huh?
Oh, yes, the thistle-pink bird goes, well, I'd say the thistle-pink bird goes back around the time of the 14th century. A lot of people come up and they say, can you make me a hex sign to put a spell on somebody or curse it? That's no way. I won't do it. And in the first place, hex signs are not for that. They have a good luck omen. Hex signs are good luck and good health and success. They are not for bad luck. A lot of people hear the word hex and they figure it's connected with witchcraft. It is not connected with witchcraft. I had a party up in Uncasville, Connecticut, which is right outside of New London. And they asked me to make them a fertility hex sign. The guy had been married about 5 or 6 years, and he said, we just can't have no children. So I made him a fertility hex sign. This was about 7, 8 years ago. And he came back about 5 years later. He was in the area at the festival, and he came back, and he said, he had the sign. It looked like it was worn a little bit. He gave it to me, and he says, here, pal, he says, you can take this sign. He says, and jam it. I've had enough. I said, what do you do? He says, boy, ever since I had that thing, he says, all I got to do is look at my wife. She's pregnant, pregnant, pregnant. I said, geez, oh, Mike, I didn't think I had the power. I didn't realize it would work. So I kept the sign, and later on I finished it off and sold it to somebody else. So I don't know if it's still working or not.
John Claypool, picking out an old German tune on his dulcimer, played us right out the door and down the road to see some hex signs which he had repainted on an ancient barn. Along the way, we saw a multitude of starbursts and rosettes and whirligigs and flowers. And I got to thinking, the Pennsylvania Dutch are among the country's most successful farmers, after all, and you hardly ever hear of witches in their barns. Be that as it may, we bought a hex sign, a rosette for good luck, and hung it on the bus. That afternoon, coming around a curve, a 10-ton truck just missed us. Missed us, I say. Of course, he might have missed us if we hadn't had a hex sign. Might have, I say. Huck Finn did this on a raft. For us, it was easier. 1 minute we were in Illinois. The next we were high above the river, not just any river, and crossing the state line, not just any state line, and seeing before us a small town, not just any town, the place a great man from here called a half-forgotten paradise. After all these years, he wrote, I can picture that old time to myself now, just as it was then, the great Mississippi rolling its mile-wide tide along, the white town drowsing in the sunshine of a summer's morning, the streets empty, or pretty nearly so, 1 or 2 clerks sitting in front of the stores on Water Street. Presently a drayman lifts up the cry, steamboat a-comin', and the scene changes. All in a twinkling, the dead town is alive and moving. Of course, the man who remembered all this was Mark Twain. And of course, the town is Hannibal, Missouri, which now delights during the steamy Tom Sawyer days of summer to honor its most famous son by whitewashing for the 1000th time that immortal fence.
And first to the boards, it looks like number 10, Ronnie Rickman of Madison, Wisconsin, and he is really a speedster. Second in command right now.
Our delight was to watch Stan Earhart, who is 8 years old, about the age of Tom Sawyer's brother Sid, pulling for his brother Steve, who is about the age of Tom Sawyer. It's a competition now, and neatness counts, but not much.
Steve Earhart of Hannibal, Missouri.
Right now, the judges are judging the neatness of the work performed.
Steve, come on.
In truth, boyhood in Hannibal is not so much changed. Steve and Stan Earhart still attempt that most impossible of youthful achievements, to catch a tadpole in a creek without a bucket. Young Steve Earhart carries papers in the afternoon as young Sam Clemens did, and the paper he carries is the very one on which Mark Twain started out in life as a printer's devil. The summer air still is charged with dreams, and if Steve Earhart dreams not of becoming a pirate, but rather of becoming a cardinal, that is only a measure of a recent substitution of heroes. Lou Brock in for Blackbeard. Hannibal childhood has always been full of adventure. Ask the old men. Scott Meyer remembers.
The mothers never had to worry about where their sons were because 99 times out of 100 they were down at the river bathing, sometimes without benefit of adornment and sometimes with. If there was a bunch of women and girls and all come and watch us, anything like that, we might have to take a longer swim than we wanted to because we had to stay ducked.
Could you swim across the river?
Oh, yes. I've swum the river here. It's about 5/8 of a mile from here over to the island. And I've got a little granddaughter who swims it now. She's only 9 years old.
Get set. Go. And first to the boards is Steve Earhart. No?
Childhood in Hannibal is changed only by the ambitions of the times. Scott Meyer's granddaughter swims the river, which Becky Thatcher never did. Steve Earhart races to paint the fence Tom Sawyer schemed to avoid painting. But for kids then and now, the Missouri summer is warm, pastimes innocent, and victory sweet.
And your winner for 1975 from Hannibal, Steve Earhart.
Mark Twain's house still stands in Hannibal, its old windows shining in the sun. The house will never fall down, unless it is by weight of all the plaques affixed to it. And Tom and Huck will always walk together at the head of Main Street. Their Missouri town is neither northern nor southern, not an eastern town, surely, not western either. Hannibal is suspended in space and time, a place to be young in and never grow old, a place to splash through endless creeks in and never fall down, a place to run away from and to come back home to. You remember woodworking class. Woodworking class was where you made a set of bookends or a wooden trivet for your mother. Well, this is Woodworking 3, Al Peterson's class at Charles Lindbergh High School in Hopkins, Minnesota. They got tired of making bookends, so they made an airplane. We dropped by, expecting, I guess, to find some kind of orange crate with wings. What we found was a sleek and graceful two-seater, a French emeraude design, being constructed lovingly by students so patient and intent that the occasional advice offered by Al Peterson and his assistant teacher, Al Schaus, seemed to come as an interruption.
You see, you got to consider we're going to have another 1/16 of an inch of plywood on the top here, too.
What was going on here, we slowly realized, was more than just a school woodworking project. It was an exercise in old-fashioned craftsmanship and youthful pride.
They learned from my being able to show them my skills along with their learning new skills.
What I want to know is, would you go along as a passenger on the first flight of this airplane?
If the FAA would let me, you bet I would.
And then, the other rainy afternoon at Flying Cloud Airport near Minneapolis, FAA Inspector Archie Newby signed a piece of paper and handed it to Al Peterson. It was a certificate of airworthiness. The Lindbergh band and cheerleaders and pom-pom girls all turned out, and the parents and kid brothers and sisters of the students in Woodworking 3, and North Central Airlines test pilot Lloyd Frankie taxied experimental aircraft N-74LH right up to the crowd for a close look. It was painted in the school colors, maroon and gold, and it looked good.
74 Lima Hotel, is the runway clear, people now?
Right there, it's clear.
Cleared for takeoff, right turn approved.
Cleared for takeoff, right turn approved. And with that matter-of-fact statement, Woodworking 3's year's work came rushing past the crowd.
There's something about building something and then going out and seeing it work. I'm a great believer in being able to build things that when you're done, you can take a look, stand back, and say, there it is, I did it, and boy, look at it go.
Pilot Frankie radioed back, she flies like a dream. The plane will be sold at a profit, and somebody will have a beautiful handmade airplane, and the money will go back to the school board. But this whole thing was never a question of money, of course. What do you remember from your senior year in high school? Not much, probably. Well, this is what Woodworking 3 will remember from theirs.
Look at him. Oh, he just glides right in. Yeah.
Trees just do not grow up here on the high plateaus of the Rockies. Everybody knows that. Trees need good soil and good weather, and up here there's no soil and terrible weather. People do not live here. Nothing can live up here, and certainly not trees. That's why the tree is a kind of miracle. The tree is a juniper, and it grows here beside US 50 utterly alone. Not another tree for miles. Nobody remembers who put the first Christmas ornament on it, some whimsical motorist of years ago. From that day to this, the tree has been redecorated each year. Nobody knows who does it. But each year, by Christmas Day, the tree has become a Christmas tree. The tree, which has no business growing here at all, has survived against all the odds. The summer droughts somehow haven't killed it, or the winter storms. When the highway builders came out to widen the road, they could have taken the tree with one pass of their bulldozer. But some impulse led them to start widening the road just a few feet past the tree. People who live in Grand Junction, 30 miles back that way, and in Delta, Colorado, 15 miles that way, all know about and love the tree. They have Christmas trees of their own, of course, the kind of trees that are brought to town in trucks and sold in vacant lots and put up in living rooms. This one tree belongs to nobody and to everybody. Just looking at it makes you think about how unexpected life on the earth can be. The tree is so lonely and so brave that it seems to offer courage to those who pass it, and a message. It is the Christmas message, that there is life and hope even in a rough world. You can kill them, but you can't kill them off. The urge to be done with crowds and cities is strong in some of our countrymen. In this way, too, the young are not so different from their forebears. This is the Ruth Glacier at the base of Mount McKinley. And that figure down there walking across it, testing the edges of the crevasses with his ice axe before stepping nonchalantly across, oh, that's just Ron Dunphy on his way home. Home is a hut, 12 feet by 12 feet, built on a rock above the glacier. It is the only structure for 80 miles around, designed as a shelter for mountain climbers in trouble. Ron Dunphy, a Catholic priest from Boston, looking for a quiet place to spend a long retreat, settled on this precarious perch atop a wilderness of ice. I think we can consider him the loneliest man in America. As for us, we interrupted his solitude by accident. The pilot of a ski plane, who landed us on the glacier for some close-ups of Mount McKinley, discovered he couldn't take off with our combined weight aboard. So Father Ron Dunphy found himself, all unwitting, host to cameraman Isidore Bleckman and me. What he talked to us about in that beautiful and solitary place was beauty and solitude.
Solitude is getting to be more and more as time goes on. It's one of the priceless luxuries in life, you know. It's hard to find. It's hard to buy. Somebody said one time up here, climber, he said, gee, you can just almost hear it or feel it, the energy here, all the pent-up energy, the immense tons of ice and all the great pressure and tension. And I can really feel the energy of this place.
And so we talked through the afternoon until the sun arched behind McKinley. We found that we fell into long silences as the night came on, and as a sense of the awesome isolation of this little hut settled upon us. It wasn't by choice, but by necessity that we spent a day and a night in this lonely place with this good man. But now that the dawn of another day has come, we find that the silence and peace of this place has seized us, and that we're reluctant to leave it. We were not quite ready to return to the world of asphalt and billboards and electric light, but the plane was coming. So we roped ourselves as protection against the crevasses, and Father Ron Dunphy led us down the glacier. We weren't ready. We wanted to experience Father Dunphy's solitude a while longer. But we knew it was his, not ours, and so we left him to it.
Well, time to say goodbye until our next trip together. We've heard about a story up the road here, but we kind of hope we never get there. With luck, we'll stumble upon something more interesting along the way. I can see the road is bending. Wonder what's around the bend.
All these years I've been a-wondering, just when I think I'm near the end, I always see the road is bending, and I wonder what's around the bend.